And ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? We're back at you once again. It's episode, I believe, 192, but forgive me if I'm off by 1, 2, or 5. I'm a roofer, so ran out of fingers and toes a long time ago, but we've done a lot of episodes of Keepin at Riol, and I feel like I've got myself a really, really good one today as well. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and I would like to welcome my guest right out of the gate, Ernest Wood. Welcome, my friend, to Keepin at Riol. How's it going?
Going fantastic, Chuck. Thank you for having me on, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Now, like I say many times when I start the podcast, you and I literally met about 2 minutes ago, and we've never spoken. So everything that we uncover today is going to be 100% organic, and I think that's the best way to do a conversation. So I appreciate you taking the time on your Monday afternoon to be here with us, and I'm sure that you're going to provide some crazy value. So without any hesitation whatsoever, let's kick this bad boy off. What do you say?
Let's do it, man.
All right. So there are a whole bunch of things. I'm looking at your social media, tons of things to talk about. I always like to start with a very simple thing. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll kind of roll with it from there.
Well, my name's Ernest Wood. I currently coach high-achieving individual men, basically, to regain balance in their life. Unfortunately, in today's world, too many of us get so focused on creating a great business that we lose sight of our physical, mental health, our relationships, our legacy. And that's where I'm at now. I was a U.S. Navy vet. I was a nuclear machinist mate on a submarine for a little while, about 5 years, tore up my shoulder, got hurt. I did 20 years in the power industry, was a journeyman machinist, and then a control room operator. But California, we don't need power over here, just have to have electric cars, but we don't need the power to run them. So they shut down all the power plants. And then I went to car sales, did pretty good there. And like kind of like Colonel Sanders did most of the way through life, I freaking did a complete change, decided to write a book and be a better person and help some people out along the way.
All right. So you're saying we don't have much to talk about this hour. I can really appreciate that. That's tremendous. So I want to start right with what you started with, coaching high-level entrepreneurs, mostly men, to teach them balance, because this is something that, quite frankly, I've worked on quite hard for the last year, and I'd like to get some insights from an expert on this. So tell me a little bit about how you got into that, and some of the methods that you use and some of the things that you teach people to get their balance back, because I know a lot of people that are high-level business people do not have any balance.
And that's what's funny is after I wrote the book, I started chatting with a bunch of people, and a lot of my friends around here are like real estate brokers or they own a different business. And I started seeing like a theme. Everybody was either a little out of shape, they couldn't stand their wife, their kids maybe didn't like them. So I started putting together like, man, there's something there. And so I call one guy and he goes, work-life balance is a joke. Balance is a joke. Balance, there's no such thing. And I agree. If you only use balance, like if you use the equal time of balance, right? Everybody wants to talk about balance only in time and being equal. But what I've found out is I use 4 pillars: your mental or your physical health, your mental health, your relationships, and your legacy. So by having all those fundamentally strong, you can create a balance in your life we'll just use this for an example. You have your roofing business. You probably have a 5-year plan, right? You have
I wish I did. I had a 5-year plan 5 years ago. It didn't quite work out, but we're still working on it.
But you had a plan, right?
Yeah, to a degree.
To a degree. Well, a lot of people, all right, well, let's go. A lot of people have like a 5-year plan, a 1-year plan. But what I've found is if you take that 5-year plan, 1-year plan, and you actually communicate it to your wife, your children, and you let them know what's going on. And look, hey, Dad's going to be out there kicking ass and trying to, create this business, and it's going to be beneficial for us in the long run. but for a little while, I'm going to have less time to spend with you. But the time I'm going to spend with you, it's going to be just for you. It's just going to be just about you, right? So now you've communicated, and they can actually be part of your foundation now because they're on that same journey that you're going to be on in creating that business. And then, so now you have the relationship part. And then the other part, like mainly it's physical, is because so many people almost find it like a badge of honor to never get any sleep, right?
Yeah.
Like, let me work 20 freaking hours and I'll sleep 4. But there's a crap ton of studies done out there. There's only 1 in every 12,000 people that can actually function at their highest level getting less than 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So if maybe you're the 1 out of 12,000, but for the most part, most of us aren't that guy. And then it just plays off of that. Your physiology leads your psychology. So once you start feeling like, once you feel good, you get some sleep, you have that energy level, because it all builds off of it. Your energy level's good, and then your attitude's good, your focus is better. And then when your focus is better, you can spend a little less time at work because now you're getting things done. I also have this little system that I taught my team when I was at the car dealership. They all, like, you can only focus for 20 to say 40 minutes. That's like the average of person. So what I did was set up a time that these guys only worked. They worked for 25 minutes straight. And then after the timer went off, they took a little break and we switched tasks. Like whatever the task was that they were supposed to be doing, we did it. And we turned those 5 guys from the bottom of this barrel to all 5 of them were in the top 7 out of the 4 to 6 months that I worked with them.
Nice. So that's the definition of, balancing your life and getting yourself back. And then, like you say, being able to perform at the highest levels possible. And this is extremely interesting to me because I'll be the first one to admit I'm 46 years old and I've been in the roofing industry for 26 of those. And there have been times where I went to North Carolina and opened up a roofing supply company as part of a business that I was working with at the time. I was working 100 hours a week, maybe it seemed, and I didn't even realize what I was doing. I'd literally do, like you said, 20 hours on, 4 hours off, and I'm back for it again. And there are about 3 years of my life that I have no recollection of. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's all I can tell you. I had no recollection of it because I got so tied up into what I was doing. And one day I just snapped and it was like, dude, I'm not doing this anymore. And I walked away and I never even looked back. I ended up moving to Texas and kind of have always been a victim of that very mindset. It's always, I'm going to outwork everybody. I'm going to last longer. I'm going to, and at the end of the day, I was feeling really, really, really bad. And through all this time, I gained a bunch of weight. I kind of got a little depressed. And last year, I made a decision. I talked to my business partner. Really, I'm going to rewind it about 4 years for you to kind of show you kind of where I'm at with this. I was about 100 pounds heavier 4 years ago. I was just out of shape, not feeling it, blah, whatever. And it took me looking at myself in a picture to get motivated and say, wait a minute, you've been eating too much pizza and sitting on the couch too much. Get up, start doing something. And I made a daily routine to get up and go for a walk. And I do that every day. I did a 4-mile walk this morning before the sun came up. I went to the gym, did my workouts and stuff. And basically over the last 12 months, I partnered up with a friend of mine over in Ohio that owns another roofing company and some other ventures. And when we partnered up last year, it was kind of under unique circumstances. The business had been kind of put on the shelf and we purchased it from my former partners and reopened the roofing company that we had closed down due to circumstances. And when we did it, the most important thing to me, I told him, was for this next year, I want to focus on my mental health. And this is something I've never thought of in my entire life. I've never given it an ounce of thought. I've never considered anything of it. You're just a tough guy and you're going out there and, sure, you're on the verge of having a nervous breakdown every other minute, but You can't tell anybody about it because, I'm a roofer. You tell someone you're having mental issues, you're going to open up a can of worms, right? So my buddy and I both decided, hey, this is good. We're both kind of going through some life things, and let's just spend this time and get ourselves together. So my goal for the last year was to do more episodes of the podcast, which, as you can see, I've done that. And I was going to learn how to play golf, and I was going to get better at playing golf. I know how to play it, but I'm terrible. So I've spent the last year. I'm still terrible. I just got back. My coaching guy was over at the range with me 20 minutes before we started, and I'm still terrible, but I feel so much better now, and I have a different energy and kind of a different vibe about things. And now my problem is I'm locked in on this side of balance. I like playing golf and I like doing podcasts. Now I'm having a hard time getting motivated to go back to work. So tell me a little bit about what I need to do to get myself back into that balance as it is, rather than being heavily leaning on one side or the other for the entire duration of my life.
What I have, it's fun. I started golf at the same time I was doing my journey from asshole to awesome, the book that I wrote. Golf tells you a lot about yourself, right? It's the hardest sport in the world, and it's just, you can know exactly who a person is in that 18 holes. You know exactly who that guy is or that girl is. What I have found the best is having that 5-year plan and that 1-year plan, and then for business and then working that backwards, right? You have your 5-year plan, what you want to achieve, and then you break it down to the 1 year, down to the 1 month, and everything is set up. I set up my days just how you were saying it. My days are set up like algorithms. If I, then I, right? If I wake up, then I drink 8 ounces of water with my pinch of Celtic sea salt. If I do that, then I meditate for, I do my 3 rounds of Wim Hof breathing, followed by 20 minutes of meditation. Then I work out. And then I hit my one most important task after my workout. Like right now, I'm working on another book. So I do that for 1 hour every day in 2 28-minute sessions. And then it's just, everything is just step on step on step. And that's how I've been able to just be moving forward all the time. And it took a lot, because from transitioning from the Navy to the, power plant, and then the power plant to the sales. And now I'm out by myself. And when you're by yourself, sometimes you can just, if you feel like screwing around, you can just go do that. Right.
Yeah. That's what I've been told.
It makes it hard. But if you have those steps all in place, because it feels good for a person, their mental, I can't think of the dang big word, but we all like to have targets, right? And that's the way people function. If they have targets, they're gonna aim at those targets. They're gonna hit those targets. So to keep yourself progressing in your business is just, like I was saying, man, get that 5-year plan, get that 1-year plan in place, and then breaking down to the month, to the day. And then I've tried to break it down everything to about a half-hour work blocks all the time. And it's really helped a lot.
Yeah. And you know what? When I was my most productive self, as far as business goes, that's exactly what I did. I had a whiteboard and I had blocked off times, 4 to 8, 8 to noon, noon to 4, so on and so forth. And I would have things structured within those windows. And I don't know why I lost track of that. Well, yeah, I do, because I intentionally lost track of it for a year. And, I already knew the answer. I just haven't taken the action to actually get back to where I need to be with that. But I know so many people in my industry, specifically roofing. This is the blue collar, it is what it is. People of all walks of life, different backgrounds. Many of my friends have, been in jail, have had addiction issues, have had all kinds of things that they've overcome. And we all converge into this space. And sometimes you get a bunch of guys in a space and it's a competition, right? And, I'm doing this many million, I'm doing this many, I did this many roofs. No, I did 2 more than you, blah, blah, blah. And it's like guys are competing against each other to see who can work the hardest. And I see people that actually brag about, you'll never outwork me. And for many years, I took a lot of pride in being one of those guys. But then you realize, like I told you, there's 3 years of my life I have no recollection of, because all I did was outwork everybody and do it. So with the different lifestyles that people have, the different ways that people look at their lives, and the way that they, take pride in just being busy over productive. Let's say that we've got someone that's, average person, they've gotten into roofing, maybe a high school graduate, maybe not even. And they're priding themselves on the fact that they work 20 hours a day. And like you said, their kids are wondering where dad's at. The wife is upset. The personal life is falling apart. What does it take sometimes, or what are some key pieces of advice that you can give to someone to help them understand or realize that they're even in that predicament? Because like I said, a lot of guys brag about it as it's a badge of honor. And at the end of the day, it's really not. So what are some of those key factors that people should look at in themselves to realize, hey, maybe I need to slow down. Maybe I need to balance my life out a little bit better. What are some things you teach your clients?
Man, it's maturity, man. Like when you're young, and like, I think you said you're 43 now. Is that what you said?
Thank you. I'm 46, but if I look 43, then I'm good with that. I'm having a great day.
You do. I'm not thinking I'm 50 now. And
it's dark in here. I got trick shots and everything, but yeah, thank you.
But I think it's that maturity thing when you start realizing that, because when you're young, you just want to, you have the big balls, and you're gonna just keep pushing until you freaking fall apart. And then a lot of people, by the time they really realize that they're falling apart, it's like you're in a horrible spot. I was chatting with one gentleman. He was a broker, and he was very successful and driving this business, and this business was doing fantastic. And then all of a sudden one day he was weighing 405 pounds, ended up in the hospital. And the first key for me, like when I started realizing I was way out of balance, is I couldn't sleep. Like, because when you get so tired, you stop being able to sleep. And a lot of us do that. So, now you're taking some kind of prescription to sleep. And then when you wake up in the morning, you're taking caffeine just to get out of bed. Or like now, I haven't touched caffeine in 25 years. I haven't had one sip of a soda, caffeine, any of that stuff. And I mean, I went from drinking 3 to 4 of those big old gigantic monsters a day. But you have to be willing to look at yourself and go, man, I'm not feeling right. I'm not as energized, or I'm not as focused as I used to be. And that's also goes with the communication to your family, man, because if if they know where you're at, maybe they can even say, hey, you're not looking, they can communicate to you the other way.
Yeah. And I've had people tell me that before, man, you lost a bunch of weight, and I don't mean that in a good way. And, it's like, well, sure, if you don't eat and you don't sleep and all you do is work, that's a pretty good recipe for, losing weight, if nothing else, amongst your sanity. But I can definitely appreciate that. And I love that, it's just maturity. Like you say, as we continue to age, we don't stay 20 forever. I wish that I could have. I really wish I could have at this point. But that's not reality. We're here where we are, and you make the moves, and you decide, okay, I need to improve this. I need to do something different. I need to make it happen. But I'm too important at work. I'm the only one. If I'm not there, it's going to stop, or these other guys can't do it right. So how do we get to the point in life where we say, okay, look, maybe we're not the be all end all for our business. Maybe the guy that's there can actually answer the phone and can actually, type up an email or whatever we need to do. And you don't have to be present all the time. What are some ways that people can understand and actually physically step back from that and not feel the constant stress of wondering if everything's going to fall apart just because they're not there, if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. And that's one of those hard ones, because it's when you're building something that, you know, it's yours, man. That roofing business is yours. And you put your blood, sweat, tears into that thing a ton of time. So like to give it over to somebody else or ask somebody else, you know, for assistance. But that kind of comes with that leadership thing, right? You have to be able to build people to have them be able to, you know, almost take your spot. Being a good leader is way different than just being a manager. And then also hiring a coach. That's when I started making some big gains in like the stuff that I did. Because the best people, business people, the richest business people, the best players, the best coach, everybody, right, has a mentor or a coach that's helped them along the way. And having that person, maybe just, you know, the business end of it person. I have a guy right now, he owns a plumbing company, and he owns a few other business, but he helps me a lot with my business end because he is just a mastermind in seeing how business works. So like if I'm missing something, he's like, hey, try this out. And then I have like my chiropractor, he helps me out with a couple other things. So having like the right people around you and surrounding yourself with the right group is vital, man. Like they say that you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most, right? And it is so true. You don't want to be hanging around with people that are going to bring you down, and you want people that are going to lift you up and keep you in that level spot.
Yep. And I can't emphasize that enough. I mean, my life is the way it is now because I do have those coaches and those mentors, and I have continuously leveled up over the course of my years to where, you know, they always say never be the smartest guy in any room. And I can assure you, I'm the only guy in this room right now, and I'm not the smartest guy here. So there's always that improvement and getting a little bit better every single day. And the best way to do it is to get around the people that have already done it and listen to them and take their advice and do what they tell you. And that kind of leads me into this next segment of our podcast, which like you said, you've got a tremendous resume. You've done all kinds of cool things, but I like to focus on the coaching because that's what you're currently doing. And I want to ask you, you know, at what point did you realize, okay, this has been tremendous for me. It's helped me out. This is what I want to do. I want to teach people how to do what I've done, how to feel the way that I've done. What did that look like to you? Were you at the car dealership one day and someone just kind of pissed you off and you said, you know what, I don't need this anymore? Was it something that you kind of had in your mind for a long time and just kind of needed to build up the courage? What was that process like for you?
That's so funny that you said that. You almost hit the nail on the head, man. So at the car dealership, I started as a sales guy, and then I worked up to a floor manager, closer, and then I went to finance. And we had too many people, so I voluntarily went back to the closer position. And I told them, I was like, I'm only going back to the closer if you promise not to hire anybody else until we get to this spot. Yeah, no problem, man. We're going to do that. So I come in after a month that we had a pretty crappy month, and he hired 2 new people to do the closer thing, basically cutting my check in half.
Yep. And
I shook my head. Yeah, I walked out of the office. And I put in my 2-week notice to the owner. And then a week later, that general manager called me in, and I just told him, he was like, hey man, I need you to have my back. We're going to do this. And I was like, well, you got to find somebody else because I'm out of here on Thursday. Already let the owners know. So it just came that spot where I just figured, man, I had to just step out. Because I was writing that book, you know, The Asshole to Awesome, but I wasn't able to finish it because when you're going to work and it's 40 hours, 50 hours at work, and then you're trying to write the book. So I said, you know what? I told the wife, I said, I am going to quit. I'm going to finish this book. And I think there's something there. There's something there that I can help people, because everybody I talk to is in the same exact boat. And if I can figure out something that, that helps people and gets me out of being underneath somebody's finger, I'm going to do it. And she had a little hesitation, but then she backed me up, and I've just been plugging away at it since then. And it's been a lot of fun, man. I've met a lot of cool people. I've been doing, like with the book, I just turned that into just almost like a fundraiser for, I met a kid over in Kauai, 7 years old. He has leukemia. So I use all my profits from the book to go to him. So I'm going to use my book as like a thing to give charity, and help out other people.
Wow, that's tremendous. I've had 17 best-selling authors, and you're the first one that's told me that about it, and doesn't get much more noble than helping a 7-year-old with leukemia. We're going to definitely talk more about the book here in just a minute. But let's talk about the book now. Why not? This is an unformatted episode of Keepin' It Real. So tell me about the process that you go through writing a book. Like I said, I've had 17 best-selling authors, and every single one of them has a completely different story. I've had people that have gone up into the woods for 2 weeks and come back with a book. I've had people that have used ghostwriters. I've had people that have written with a pen and paper. What was your journey to becoming a published author? How did that work out for you? What was the course of action?
Man, I just decided, like I said earlier, I just decided I needed to write a book, or I needed to change who I was. I was kind of I was an asshole. So I needed to change. And on that change, I read, I don't even know, 500, probably some odd self-help books, did different little coaching things. And every one of them, I kept getting stuck. But then I finally, something like kind of clicked in my head and it worked for me. So I thought, well, maybe if it clicked in my head, maybe I can help, some other people out by giving them a more raw approach. Because if you read a lot of the books, they're basically the same, format, super politically correct. And I just go at it raw, man. I hit it, and I tell you some stories of how big of a jackass I was, some of the stupid shit I did, not all of it. I mean, there's probably some, worse stuff, but
we got to have another book down the road. So you never tell the full story on the front end, right?
Yeah, I'm working on that one right now too. So it took me like 4.5 years. I was just stuck. I would get about 3 chapters in, and then I'd fall apart. And then I would start in a different direction, and no, I'm going to do it this way. But then when AI came around, I used that AI to help me outline the book. Excuse me. And then with that outline, I wasn't writing off of a blank paper anymore. I had, something there that I can go, ooh, you know what? This sounds kind of good, but let me put it in my language, and how I would present it. I'll tell you what, AI is amazing, man. When you can, I have been working on learning that as much as possible lately, because it does a lot.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it takes a lot off of my plate. I use a lot of it for what I do, and I really appreciate it because it's something I've just kind of recently adopted as well. And you can ask the thing just about anything, and it'll tell you exactly what you need. And I had my logo right here was done by my AI. So I can appreciate what that does for your daily life. And it kind of takes a lot of that load off of you, like you say, having to come up with everything and having to format a book, never writing a book before in your entire life, but reading many, it doesn't really translate because your message is different than everybody else's. And like you say, you want it to be more raw, unfiltered. You want it to be, kind of smacking you in the face and telling you. And before we get too far into that, I always like to ask the crazy question. When I have sales reps, I ask them about their worst customers. When I have this and that, you mentioned in your book that you've told stories about, asshole things that you've done. and how you've resolved those. So if you don't want to give away the entire secret, I can appreciate that. But would you mind sharing one or, maybe a little bit of that with us so we kind of have some context as to what the book is going to be about?
Yeah, no problem. The three things that I came out of it the most, that helped me change the most, is gratitude, forgiveness, and empathy. I was ungrateful. I kind of grew up. My mother was only 14 when she had me. And I had to, when you grow up, when you're kind of like a scrapper, you're always,
you have a chip on your shoulder for sure. Yeah.
So I always had that nasty little chip. I was bad. I was super racist. I was sexist. I would flirt with anything, anybody. Even my wife was there. Your wife was there. I'd probably flirt with her. I was just that guy. And a lot of it was just in my head. I was telling it was just for fun, right? But it was just that I didn't like who I was. I wasn't grateful for anything that I had. And it came down to, once I learned I have to be grateful, and then I was always holding a grudge for everything. Anybody, I never took responsibility. It was always somebody else's fault. I didn't forgive anybody. So my dad, hated him till he died. When I read his name in the obituary, it was just like reading Fred Warner. It didn't affect me at all. And then myself, I couldn't forgive myself for all the stupid shit that I did. And so learning to have gratitude, being able to forgive, and then having empathy, being able to see the other side of the story. I was super opinionated. It did not matter what the subject was. I had an opinion about it, and my opinion was right. And that's just how I rolled for most of my life, until I figured out, yeah, dude, I don't like you. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I just didn't like the guy I was.
I can definitely appreciate that. And I know a lot of people that have probably been through that exact same process. And you, like you say, at some point you hit your breaking point, and it's like, I got to change. I'm not going to enjoy my life ever if I keep going down this path. So when you make that decision and you realize, this sucks, I don't like this, I want to go from being an asshole to being awesome. What does the transformation look like? What kind of work did you have to put in on yourself throughout that process to go from being an asshole to being awesome? Because you're pretty damn awesome. I'm not going to lie.
Well, damn, Chuck, I appreciate it, man.
I'm having a great time.
It was two incidences. I was constantly working on myself, but I would fall back all the time because, we always fall back to our means, right?
Yep.
And I was driving. I used to have super bad road rage. If somebody cut me off or even somebody swerved in my lane, man, I was going to run you into the side of the wall. I was going to brake check you. I was going to do everything I could to let you know that you shouldn't do that. So one day I'm driving down the road. I'm listening to Brian Tracy talk about don't give your feelings away to somebody else. And I look over and I see this BMW coming on the freeway, and he's moving pretty fast. And I'm like, dude, I know this guy's going to try to get in front of me. So of course I do, as every Californian does. I squeeze up as much as possible, and he still squeezes in front of me. So I get on the horn, I flip him off. I'm mouthing all kinds of stuff to him. He flips me back off and brake checks me. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm like, my freaking brain is going nuts. I whip it to the side. I cut off somebody else. We're driving down the freeway probably for 5 to 10 minutes, man. 80, 90, probably reached 100 a couple of times. We're cutting off people, flipping each other off, trying to see how bad we could cut each other off. And I finally get along next to him, and he has a little kid in the back of his car. I was just like, oh, man, I was just like, holy crap, dude. And I've done something almost as bad with my kids in the back of my car. And that was that first day that I actually said, dude, I'm changing. So I just started I started breathing, like working on meditation. I had to get that meditation in there because that helps you just be able to control your emotions and control your thoughts. I started gratitude, like the journal, my gratitude journal. I write 3 things down every single day, what I'm grateful for. One about myself, one about my wife or kids, and then one about the world. And that started switching that mindset that instead of looking at everything as somebody owed me something or they or whatever it was, now I was more grateful for even having a car. Now I was grateful for being on the road and being able to drive to work. And then the last thing happened was I was at the power plant and this guy told me after I've been doing a ton of work, I felt like I was being a halfway
Right.
decent person,
I'm
right?
on my best behavior. What the hell are you talking about?
And this guy says, you're just like whatever his name was. And nobody wanted to be like that guy. He was the guy that everybody, almost everybody knows that guy because he works at like most spots, right? He's the whiner, the bitcher, the complainer, uses nothing but bad words the entire time. So he told me that. And then from that day on, it's just been a constant grind to get better. And I still, every once in a while get out on the golf course and I have flung a few golf clubs, but not within the last 2 years.
There you go.
I think it's been about 2 years now. So it's just a constant being mindful of where you're at. You can, just like anything else in life, if you're not growing or getting better, you're dying. And your mental health, your physical health, your business, your relationships, everything works exactly the same way. It's constantly getting better or you're getting worse.
Boy, that is the most understated aspect of life, really. And I have to say, I have a goofy personality and I see funny things sometimes when I picture this vision in my head. You're driving down the road, a guy in a Beamer, Brian Tracy. Like, I don't even understand how you could get mad listening to Brian Tracy. He's the most calm human being on the face of the earth. It's like, okay, don't give your emotions. And he's got that happy guy voice going on.
I love his voice.
You got a anger going on when Brian Tracy can get you that fired up. So much respect for that because I've done that myself. So no judgment zone over here. I think road rage is the one thing that I need to focus on. And I've said that for 30 years, but we do have our moments and it's never my fault. I always say I'm the only one that can drive here in San Antonio, but maybe that's not always the case. Antonio. So it's true. I am the only one that can drive, right? Okay, well, there you go, folks. So anybody in San Antonio watching Keepin at Rio, I told you. But yeah, I really respect that. And it also puts in perspective, like you said, the other guy was doing the same thing and he's got a kid in the car. Now, not only are you putting your kid in danger over something completely stupid that you're going to regret if something terrible does happen, but you're also setting an example. And you're raising the next generation of assholes at that point because that kid is going to emulate exactly what he's been seeing. And that's an unfortunate thing. So you are taking the steps to break that cycle so that the people around you are not going to see that and not think, hey, man, that's kind of cool, really. He wanted to fight some random guy. And those things don't end up well in modern times anyway. It's not like back in the 80s and 90s when you get out and, throw a couple shots and get back in the car. People have guns now and they shoot you and they don't think twice about it. So I think we're in a time frame in history where if you got road rage, you better be pretty careful because there's a lot of potential for bad to happen. So I love that you've acknowledged that and acknowledged the fact that still it's a constant work. Every day is just a little bit better than yesterday. And if we have a bad moment, okay, fine. Be mindful of that and understand I'm still working on myself. And when I get to the top, I'm never going to be perfect. So I appreciate that. And I love the fact that you were, able to have that conversation with yourself because a lot of people don't. There are a lot of people in this world that never will take responsibility for any of their actions, never be accountable for their mistakes. And it's refreshing to talk to folks on the podcast that do that. So I appreciate that very much. And I kind of want to, well, I do want to ask you a little bit more about the book, but we'll talk about the book at the end of the podcast. You get into this and now you say, okay, I don't want to be someone's employee anymore. I want to do my own thing. I've written a book. I want to coach people. I want to mentor people. I want to help people achieve high levels of success. You don't just snap your fingers and that happens. So tell me a bit about this process. How do you go about finding people that need your help? How do you go about convincing them that they need your help? And how do you prove yourself to them in that, hey, I'm actually credible to help you? What is that journey?
That's where all the podcasts come in. People hear you and see you, and people can tell right away if you're authentic or if you're just some guy blowing smoke up somebody's ass. I had a hard time ever hiring a coach because I had too big of like an ego. I just was like, I know more than everybody, right? I'm going to read it. I'll find out myself. But once I figured out I need coaches, and the same thing with this, like I have a few coaches now that are helping me get all the website in place, getting the funnels put in place, getting the right ads, getting everything step by step. And it's difficult. And that's the hardest part about this, is because it's become a giant field, coaching, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think Tony Robbins, was one of the first few guys that when he started, he was, there might have been a handful of people, but now everybody's hopping into it. You have your 20-year-old kid. It's he barely has pubic hair and he's trying to tell some dude who's 50 how to live his life. I give them mad respect and props, for getting out there and trying to do something. But in some ways, you have to live through the failures. You have to realize that there is nobody perfect. You have to be able to accept that you're not going to be perfect. And having people realize that and step back and actually look themselves in the mirror and go, damn, maybe I could use a coach, is a constant challenge. And that's something that I haven't perfected it yet. I'm getting better about it, but same thing, man. I had to hire some coaches to even get me to that spot of being able to find anybody. And now with AI and all the social media, it does help some, but growing it just organically off of just posting great material is not the way it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a very time consuming, and it's got to be something that you've got a ton of passion about, because it does take forever to start seeing results. And during this process, I'm sure there have been times where you've doubted, is this the right thing? Am I reaching people the way that I need to? Is this my true purpose? Or, should I go back to the car lot? And when you have those moments of self-doubt, you have to, kind of have the same honest conversations, right? And, have you ever been to the point in this process in your journey where you've thought, I'm working as hard as I can, I'm doing the best I can, but there's just not enough people out here for me to help, or I just am having a hard time? Have you wanted to quit?
Yeah, I would tell you probably, I don't even know, maybe 4 to 5 months ago, I just got to that point where it's just like, my liquid assets were pretty dwindled, and there was a couple good job openings. I'm talking to the wife and I'm like, man, should I just go back and do that and then, build back up my funds and try it again? And we chatted about it, and I just decided it's just not what I want to do. I can't go back and work with somebody. I almost just burnt the bridge, man. I just said, light the boats on fire, light the bridge on fire. I'm going to take this all the way down to the bare bones until I don't have anything else left to give. Because I know there are so many people out there that need this. Every podcast I've been on, even, the guys that I do coach, when you touch somebody and you actually help them, I don't know if I've actually saved a marriage or anything, but I know I've made their marriage a little happier for a while. And having their kids be happier, or having them be able to enjoy their kids. It's so fulfilling. It's like nothing else in life, man. It's just one of those things that I know that there's a need out there, and I just need to keep on plugging away until I can get it to enough people that it starts flowing, right?
Absolutely. And it's going to happen. I guarantee that, because you didn't quit. And I always find people that do the first part, like you said, and they say, well, let me go back and let me get ready and let me redo it never works out. You're doing it out of passion this time. And you decided, I'm at my breaking point, but I'm going to continue with this because I believe so firmly in what I'm doing. I believe so firmly in myself, and I know that I'm going to help. But I also do realize that along the way, there are little pick-me-ups that happen. And I talk to a lot of motivational speakers, a lot of coaches, and there's always a story of, I was right there and I was about to be done, but then somebody reached out that I had helped, or someone had seen something that I put out there, and just a random person has, reached out to me and said, hey, look, you're helping me out. And that was one of the catalysts for continuing to go. Did you have any moments like that when you're at your low points, when you thought, maybe this isn't going to work? Was there someone that came from out of the blue that just kind of surprised you and made you realize that what you were doing is the right thing?
One young dude that I work with, I usually work with older guys because they're the guys, have the success, and they're the ones out of balance. The younger guys they're just trying to find their place. But this young dude that I worked with at the car dealership, so I started just mentoring him a little bit. And he wrote me a little letter, like a testimonial, man. And it was awesome, dude. It gave me that last little bit that I needed in my heart to know this is working. This is going to work. And because he was getting super frustrated with his job. He wasn't looking forward to going to work anymore. I mean, the kid is the number one sales guy there, but he was just done with it. And so we fixed his mindset a little bit, doing the gratitude stuff. I taught him a little more about the time management and, breaking those little things up. And we started getting him to do some push-ups and body squats and different things like that. And last time I saw him not too long ago, he has like little shoulder muscles now. And he started, and he said, he texted back probably 2 weeks ago and said, man, I ran into a little tough spot. Then I went through my notes and I picked it right back up. So it was cool, man. It was, like you said, it was just having that one guy out there that said, you know what, you are helping me.
Yeah. And one is sometimes all it takes. And I always tell people, if one person gets affected or impacted by one of my podcast episodes, then it's worth every second of it. I would do it if nobody watched, because I enjoy this so much, but people reach out to me a lot and they say, hey, that episode that you had 2 years ago, I reached out to that guy and he sent me a copy of the book and it was autographed. And, there's all kinds of stuff going on that I don't even know about. And when you do hear that, it's like, okay, it's been a laborious thing. It's a hobby, really. I mean, I don't get paid a lot of money to do the podcast. I do it for fun. And just sometimes having people say, you know what, you're doing a good job. That's all it takes to get you to do the next 10 episodes with a smile on your face. And I can't say enough how cool that is. And I love that story, especially when it's someone that seemed like, they just needed a little push as well. You gave the push. You showed interest in someone who needed you at that time. And the willingness to do it is what shines through. So that's pretty awesome. We move into another realm here now, which is you wrote your book. We've now determined that this is your calling in life. This is what you want to do. You're writing a second book now. So tell me a little bit about your 5-year plan. What's it look like 5 years down the road for Ernest?
5-year plan. I want to get this book out by the next 3 to 4 months. It's called, right now it's called Chasing Awesome, Master Your Life with Balance. So my 5-year plan is just, I'm going to have I do one-on-one coaching with a maximum of 12 people right now. Having that up and just constantly flowing, and then also having a separate thing for like the younger guys, the guys that are 25 to 35, the hustlers, the guy, them because you
Oh
work in
yeah,
them,
there's a
right?
ton of them out there.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
and they need
guys who are,
guidance.
yeah, that they're trying so freaking hard, but they get lost, and they being able to coach those guys and help them out would be awesome. But the bad thing is, like, to do that, it takes a separate thing. To me, I think I'm going to have a separate platform, and it's going to be more of a group learning session, and not the one-on-one. And that is the ultimate. I would love to be able to help those guys, because so many of us, I know how many times I got lost trying to start a business, trying to do this, trying to raise my kids. And I couldn't afford to pay, like the hefty coach or the other guy. But if there's a program out there that maybe it's $100 a month, $50 a month, and I'm able to get into a group with, 10 other guys that are trying to do the same exact thing that I'm doing, and having different groups set up with like 5 to 10 individuals, that's the ultimate goal. And then also having like weekend retreats for like 7 guys. We're going to go. I live in San Diego, California, which, a lot of people like to come freaking visit here. We have some fantastic golf courses down here, but having some retreats where I have those 7 guys, 2 foursomes, we go out and play golf. I bring in some specialists for, tax purposes, how to invest. Maybe my chiropractor comes, chats with them but have specialists set up for that weekend. And then we just go through the whole balance thing and just have a nice 3-day weekend where they can come out, play some golf, learn exactly who they are, because like we talked about earlier, you can't really hide your true self and play golf.
Boy, that's the truth. I wish you could, but it helps you change your character for sure. And I go out and I intentionally go golfing with people that I don't want to show frustration in front of or anger. And it still gets the best of me. But I've got a friend over in East Texas and we go, and that's what he always tells me. Just, this is a game. Have fun. That's all it is. It's a game. Nobody's going to remember your score 5 seconds after we walk off the 18th green. And, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't remember the bad shots you've hit that you're in your own head about. And I love that. I think those group retreats are a very valuable way for people to not just network and be around other people that have similar likes and similar things that they're going through, but it's fun. And people can learn more in an environment where they're having fun and they're fully engaged. And I really appreciate that. To get to that point, we rewind back 5 years to where we're sitting today. It is November 4th, 2024. And you've got a book that you've got out. And I think that people that are watching this episode right now that are saying, hey, you know what? I need to learn more from this guy. I need some help. I want to read that book myself and see if I can't implement some of these things into my life. Tell me what the best ways are for people to get a hold of you, to follow you, to order the book. We want to sell some books on Keepin' It Real. I've had some best-selling authors, and I'd love to have another one. So what are some ways that people can take that first step, can begin that journey to a much more happy life, like you say, from asshole to awesome? And I love that title. I've just said it like 50 times because it's a cool title, but it applies to all of us. And how do we find that first step, and what do we do to work with you in some capacity?
Website is super easy. It's right there, ernestwood.com, just my name.com. That'll take you to the website. You can actually download a free PDF there of the book. To buy it, it's on Amazon. And like I was saying, if you do buy it, all profits are going to help. I think I'm going to extend it another month to help this young man Paxton out. The kid is an absolute stud. He's amazing, man. I met him over in Kauai. I just got to tell this story real quick. Met him over in Kauai, and the wife and I were at this awesome little bar cabana thing, and they have some great singers there. And he walks up and he sings a song in front of this entire place that's, you know, full of people. And then they tell his story, and I was just like, ugh, you know. And I chatted with the parents after that, and that's when I decided I just want to do that with the profits from my books. I was working on getting it to like the VA, the veterans, and then a boys and girls club over here. But a lot of those guys, they've already got, you know, a bunch of sponsors. So anyway, back to that. Yeah, so All Profits, it's on Amazon. Asshole to Awesome. The white book, the one, the red path, is the book, and then I have a red book that is the journal that goes along with it. I'm a big believer in journaling, you know, self-reflecting, gratitude, setting up your day, reflecting on your day, knowing like what kind of emotions that you had that day. You know, for a guy, it's freaking hard because our emotions, you might be able to contest to this, that up until about 10 years ago, my emotions was me hungry, me mad, or me super happy. You know, it's that was it. Like I was a caveman, dude. But now, you know, it's a lot more than that. It's a lot about being grateful, being able to forgive, understanding what the other guy is going through, and knowing that nobody's perfect and everybody has their own shit, man. And sooner or later, that shit is going to pile up so high that you can't see the sunlight through it. So like, let's try to sweep that away. But ErnestWood.com, that's the best way. And then my email is super easy also. It's going to be Ernie@ErnestWood.com. Feel free to email me.
I love it. And I'll tell you what, you're going to get some emails from people, because I do have these folks that reach out and they say, hey, you know, that impacted me. I think that I have the perfect target audience with my industry and with the demographic that I have on my show, that you're going to be able to make a good positive impact for a few people here. And somewhere down the road, I'm going to open an invitation for you right now to be a guest on Keepin' It Real again, somewhere down the road, so we can kind of see how the things have developed and how everything's worked out for you. My goal is to do 2,500 episodes. I'm not even at 200 yet. So I've still got a couple days of recordings to do. And I always like to follow back up somewhere down the road. So I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here with me this afternoon. It is a absolute pleasure, and I've enjoyed this. It's been an hour already that's gone by so fast.
Holy crap.
Yeah, exactly, right? I look at that and I think, man, you know, I could probably get another episode, but we already said you don't want to give away everything on the front end. You want to make sure that people come back for the second edition of our book here, and that we can continue the story with the progression. So I thank you so much for being here. You've really kind of covered everything, but I always like to give a last, you know, a final word type thing. I'm kind of like the Jerry Springer or whatever. Any final parting words of wisdom or anything that you'd like to share with our audience? And, you know, we'll play it off from there.
I would just want to say thank you, Chuck. Dude, you've been awesome. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to give one little like exercise that actually it helped my mind a lot. It's called the eulogy exercise. Just imagine that if you died and you were able to see your funeral, how many people would be there and what would they say about you? Actually write that crap down and like do the exercise, because if you don't like it, I didn't like it. I hated it, like what I was and what I thought people would say about me. And that'll help. Because if you truly love yourself and your eulogy would be awesome, then dude, keep on doing what you're doing and help more people, man.
Yeah, work what works for sure. And that is a wonderful way for us to end episode 192 of Keepin' It Real. I thank you again, Ernest, for the time that you took to spend with a complete stranger. We're 59 minutes in and we literally met 61 minutes ago. So I thank you for taking the time to talk to a total stranger, to share your story with us. It's been absolutely amazing. And when this comes out, we're going to impact some people. So thank you for that. And one thing I always forget to do, now I'm not going to forget this time, and I've been pretty good here the last few episodes, is I got to give a thank you to my sponsors real quick. And let me ask you this. My sponsor is a company called roofer.com, ROOFR. Obviously, it's got something to do with roofing, but let me spend this next 20 seconds, Ernie, showing you what Roofer is all about. Is that fair?
Let's do it, man.
All right, check this out.
We're Roofer. We know that managing a roofing business can be chaotic, so we created a single platform with all the tools you need to easily run your roofing business. Stop switching between multiple different softwares and experience streamlined operations from lead to payment in hours instead of days. Visit roofr.com to get started for free today.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. They've been my sponsor for 2 years, and I think we're going to continue on for the rest of my life if everything works out the way that I want it to. So thank you to Roofer. Thank you to everybody who watches Keepin' It Rio and shares the episodes with your friends. I appreciate it more than I could ever put into words. And y'all know for the last 190 episodes, I've tried to put it in words. So I can't thank you guys enough. And I always end my podcast with the worst of the worst as far as taglines go. And it's very simple, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, keep on keeping it real. We'll see you guys later.